For over a century, AJC has raised its voice in defense of those who cannot, fighting oppression with unflinching advocacy and intolerance with unwavering commitment.
Please welcome Chair of AJC's Board of Trustees, Stephen Wish.
Hello, Global Forum. I'm back. And you know, they would only send me back here if I had good news. But before I talk about the good news, I want to say, yesterday I said to everybody, I'm a proud Jew. And today I'm an even more proud Jew. I should have also said I'm a proud Zionist. But why do I say this? I talked yesterday about community. And I am so proud of this community. I met so many people last night, today, and it makes me very, very happy. And it reminded me of a story about one of my children. My youngest daughter, Audrey, when she was 6, now she's 22, we went to Israel for her first trip. And after the first day, I said to Audrey, I said, what do you think? And she said, Dad, I love it. I said, why? She said, it's so Jewish. And that's how I feel around everybody in this community at Global Forum. It's so Jewish. I'm very proud to be here. I've been very impressed with the workshops, and the content has been outstanding. I've always said that at AJC we lead with advocacy, but education, as we all know, is so important. And the speakers at these workshops today have been outstanding, and I've learned so much. So in summary, global advocacy, education, we fight anti-Semitism, and this sense of community is so important. But I want to get to why I'm up here. So yesterday I asked if you all could help me raise at least $1 million while we're here. So I've got great news. First of all, we've raised so far, and we're still climbing. We've raised $800,000, number one. Number two, a very generous member of our community stepped up with a gift of $500,000 and a matching program. And I know there are still many of you who are still have not yet given. So first of all, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for giving. Thank you for giving more. And have a wonderful plenary session this evening. Great to be here.
Please welcome CEO of North America for the Jewish Agency for Israel, Dan Elbaum, and AJC CEO, Ted Deutsch.
Good evening. In the Jewish tradition, the concept of moving from darkness to light is frequently repeated. Since the darkness of October 7th and its aftermath, the solidarity, connectivity, and unity of the global Jewish community have been an incredible ray of light. The deep and personal pain that global Jewry felt and continues to feel since we woke up on the morning of October 7th to the most horrifying news out of Israel has become a living reminder of our inextricable bonds as one Jewish people. And it is our Israeli friends and family fighting for their security through unimaginable trauma who have stood shoulder to shoulder with the diaspora to speak out against the anti-Semitism flooding our societies. In the face of hatred, the bonds that unite us as one people have never been stronger, and there is no greater display of Jewish peoplehood and our resilience than the strength of the rising generation of young Jewish leaders. This year, AJC's Leaders for Tomorrow, our LIFT program, celebrates its 10-year anniversary. And our flagship advocacy and training program for high schoolers takes on even greater importance today as it prepares young leaders to develop a strong Jewish identity, to advocate for Israel, and to be outspoken voices against anti-Semitism. I want to thank the founders of LIFT, Ryan and Corey Berger, supported by my predecessor, David Harris, and by Dan during his tenure at AJC for their visionary leadership. To date, we have empowered over 2,500 teens across this country, and this year alone, we held cohorts in nearly 20 cities with students representing 162 high schools. And as we celebrate this milestone, and we look to meet the unprecedentedly challenging moment for world Jewry, we are looking to see how we can further invest in the next generation of Jewish leaders.
First, I want to say on a very personal level how good it is to be back home at AJC. And how grateful I am to each and every one of you for what you do for AJC every day. At the Jewish Agency for Israel, the Jewish future in strengthening and nurturing ties between Jewish communities around the world and the state of Israel are at the heart of what we do. One way we do this is through bringing Jewish teenagers to Israel and bringing Israel to Jewish teenagers. Here in the United States, we have close to 400 shlichim, dedicated emissaries between the ages of 18 to 35 in communities across the country. They work every day to build ties between American Jews and Israel and between Jews and each other. In less than a week, they'll be joined by 1,600 shlichim at 180 summer camps throughout North America. They serve as a living connection to Israel for so many and a source of pride for Jews in communities large and small. Nearly 1/3 of our emissaries are themselves Israeli teenagers, whom we call shinshanim, Hebrew for Shana Sherut, a year of service. They are Israeli high school graduates serving Jewish communities around the world prior to their IDF service. For these shinshanim, the experience of being with American teenagers is nothing less than transformative, as many of them go to non-Orthodox synagogues for the first time, see how American Jews live, see how we worship, and understand what it is like to be Jewish in a non-Jewish country. One of the most common things that we hear from those shinshanim when they came back is that I went to America as an Israeli, but I'm coming home as a Jew.
And that is why we are proud to announce a new and expansive partnership between AJC and the Jewish Agency to strengthen the ties between Jewish and Israeli teens. With AJC's unparalleled knowledge and expertise in secondary schools, AJC will run national educational sessions for all Jewish Agency shlichim to help them understand the realities facing American Jewish teens in private schools and the actionable tools that they can utilize to combat anti-Semitism and anti-Israel sentiment in their classrooms and learning communities. In Jewish camps and community centers and synagogues and elsewhere, shlichim are often who young Jews turn to first. And we at AJC are dedicated to ensuring shlichim are trained and empowered to advise teens who are facing growing rates of anti-Semitism within schools, and I am thrilled. I could not be happier that the engagement between these exceptional shlichim and our LIFT students will strengthen LIFT students' connection to Israel.
In parallel with these trainings, we are also pleased to announce a series of initiatives to build understanding between American Jewish and Israeli teens. AJC and the Jewish Agency will hold mishkafim, joint gatherings between LIFT students and Jewish Agency Shinshanim, pre-army teenagers, in city where AJC has a LIFT presence. As the proud father of a recent LIFT graduate, hello Carly Elbaum if you're watching, who is currently in Israel and embarrassed that her name has been mentioned, I think that this exposure to young Israeli shlichim will make the American teenagers stronger advocates for the state of Israel. Starting the next academic year, AJC will invite a delegation of Shinshanim to AJC's Susan and Bart Lewis Family AJC Leaders for Tomorrow Advocacy Summit in Washington, D.C., to be in dialogue with American Jewish teens and witness their advocacy firsthand. Furthermore, AJC will facilitate meetings between shlichim and Jewish affinity groups within private schools. Through these face-to-face encounters, both Israeli and American Jews will learn, grow, and together build a stronger bond of Jewish peoplehood.
Dan, Gabby, Serena, and Cole Deutsch are also watching. They're not in Israel, but they would be upset that they didn't get mentioned. In the words of Natan Sharansky, the esteemed past chairman of the Jewish Agency, and I quote, "There is no power in the world that can stand against us when we feel a part of our history, a part of our people, and a part of this historic struggle." Everyone here today understands the importance of being proudly Jewish, particularly at this pivotal moment in our history. And AJC, Dan, AJC is thrilled to be partnering with the Jewish Agency to help strengthen Jewish pride and understanding for the rising generation of Jewish leaders so that they can proudly defend their people and the state of Israel. Thank you.
Please welcome AJC National Leadership Council members Bill, Susan, and Josh Green.
My name is Bill Green, and I am here with my son Josh Green and my wife Susan Feinberg Green. After the untimely death of my first wife, Sharon, our family established an award in her memory to honor young people dedicated to combating anti-Semitism, fighting the BDS movement on their campuses, and promoting Israel's place in the world. In partnership with American Jewish Committee, we are honored to present this award to exceptional campus leaders and advocates.
My mom, Sharon, was born in 1944 in Wynwood, Pennsylvania. She graduated magna cum laude from Tufts University with a degree in occupational therapy and worked at New York Hospital. She then became the assistant director of a psychiatric outpatient clinic. Once my siblings and I came along, she volunteered at the Bedford Hills Correctional Facility, developing inmate and family programs. She then went on to earn a master's degree in social work from Fordham University, specializing in grief counseling. My mom really valued community service throughout her life and was an exemplar of the pillars that this award honors.
After Sharon passed away in 1986 from breast cancer, we knew as a family that we needed to find a way to honor her legacy. Sharon spent her professional life helping people cope with trauma, deeply loved Israel, and was passionate about Judaism. She spent what little free time she had giving back to our fledgling synagogue. Sharon dedicated her life to causes that benefited the Jewish community and supported AJC's mission. Her volunteer work and commitment to social justice reflected her unwavering faith in the next generation and her desire to shape the future of the Jewish community. This award is a tribute to her enduring legacy of service and her belief in the power of young people to effect positive change.
We are honored to be here today to present the annual Sharon Greene Award for Campus Advocacy. This past school year has been particularly challenging for Jewish students. Since October 7th, there has been an unprecedented rise in anti-Semitism and anti-Israel sentiment, and we have seen this tenfold on college campuses. Jewish students across the globe have faced harassment, discrimination, and even violence. Many students around the world have shown incredible strength, compassion, and dedication despite these obstacles. They have organized events, educational programs, and support networks to combat anti-Semitism and foster a positive image of Israel wherever they can. Their efforts have provided much-needed support to Jewish students, educated their peers, and built bridges of understanding within their broader communities.
Today we proudly present the 2024 Sharon Greene Award to 3 outstanding organizations: Jewish on Campus, the German Union of Jewish Students, and Columbia Barnard Hillel. The student leaders here today representing these organizations have faced anti-Semitic attacks on their campuses, social media, and in their communities. They have confronted violence, hateful rhetoric, and vandalism, yet at great personal risk, they continue to prioritize creating safe, thriving, and supportive Jewish communities for students around the world.
Columbia Barnard Hillel has been a beacon of hope and solidarity, organizing numerous events and initiatives to support Jewish students and promote interfaith dialogue. Jewish on Campus has leveraged the power of social media to highlight and combat anti-Semitism, providing a platform for Jewish voices and fostering a global community of support. The German Union of Jewish Students has shown remarkable resilience, standing up against anti-Semitism and ensuring Jewish students have a strong and supportive network. Please, now direct your attention to the screens for a special video showcasing this year's award recipients.
My name is Noah Fay. I go to Barnard College of Columbia University, and I am accepting the Sharon Greene Award on behalf of Columbia Hillel. Following the October 7th attacks, I overheard a group of students talking, and one of them says, I don't want to say all Jews are colonialist settlers, but, and then another student cuts her off and says, no, absolutely every single one of them is a white supremacist colonialist settler. We don't want no Zionists here! Since then, I personally have been cyberbullied. Last semester, I received a lot of blood libel. My personal whiteboard on my dorm door was vandalized. When I come out and say, as a Jewish woman, this is what anti-Semitism is, this is what I'm experiencing, that is not given any respect, honestly.
I am a student student at Columbia University.
I did have the opportunity to speak at the March for Israel in Washington, D.C. That made me feel very proud to be Jewish. I felt so much love.
We fight peacefully. We are far from helpless. We are far from hopeless.
My main goal in advocating for the Jewish people in the state of Israel is to protect our community and to educate those who don't know about us. It's so important to do this advocacy work on campus because if we don't, no one else will.
My name is Micah Gritz, and I'm a senior at Tufts University. I grew up in a very traditional, conservative Jewish home, and Judaism was always an important part of my life. Going into my first year at Tufts, I had experienced anti-Semitism to a level I had never experienced before throughout my life. I remember one student mentioned that I must be wealthy because I'm Jewish. Another student said, Micah, you're Jewish, right? And I remember saying, yes, I'm Jewish, why? And he said, well, that must mean that you kill Palestinian children, right? Jewish on Campus was founded in the summer of 2020. Our whole motto is, we're a Jewish organization that's by students for students, amplifying the experiences of Jewish students regarding anti-Semitism on campus. Anti-Semitism has exploded, and Jewish on Campus believes we need to be empowering Jewish students to be our own fighters against this form of hate on campus. What inspires my activism truly is my connection to Judaism that I received through my family. My father passed away, unfortunately, 2 years ago. I wear his Magen David all the time with pride, and so every day when I think, wow, this work is really hard, why do I do it? It's to continue the legacy of the Jewish people, especially in its memory.
My name is Hannah Weiler. I'm the president of the German Union of Jewish Students. My family is from a post-Soviet country where being Jewish or where practicing Judaism was forbidden and persecuted by the state. I would say my Jewish identity was connected to the negative sides of being Jewish. I didn't know anything about the Jewish holidays, I didn't know anything about Shabbat, and so on. When I was 16, I started to go to Jewish summer camps. And this is how my journey as a Jewish student activist began. Now I'm here as the president of the German Union of Jewish Students. We want to educate people, we want to advocate. And I would say that my organization is fighting for exactly this. The way that the Jewish community is perceived in Germany is oftentimes we are portrayed as victims, we are portrayed as black and white pictures, we are portrayed as only Orthodox or only men. I believe we are the first generation in Germany that is this loud and this unapologetically Jewish, and this is what the German Union of Jewish Students and our work is about, to fight for our rights and other people's rights, to fight for democracy and to work for a better society for everyone.
These organizations embody the spirit of Sharon's legacy. These students demonstrate that even in the face of adversity, young leaders are not just the leaders of tomorrow, but the leaders that we in the Jewish community need today. Their courage and dedication are truly inspiring, and we are honored to recognize their efforts with the 2024 Sharon Greene Award for Campus Advocacy. Unfortunately, Micah Gritz is not able to join us today, but we are delighted to welcome Noah Fay and Hannah Weiler to the Global Forum stage.
everyone. I want to start by thanking the American Jewish Committee and the Greene family for bestowing upon each of us this great honor. I am extremely proud to be standing before you all to represent Sharon's memory. While the significance of the AJC Sharon Greene Award for Campus Advocacy has always been clear, this past academic year has shown us exactly why that is. I am here to accept this award on behalf of Columbia Barnard Hillel, to which I also express the most immense gratitude, as the year would have been entirely different had we, the Jewish students, not been privileged with their truly unwavering support. Yeah. I want to be transparent. As I stand in front of you all, reflecting on this past year, now as a Barnard alumna, I am overcome with emotion, grief, pain, and sorrow, mostly. This was not a good year. There is just no way around it. This year, I was forced to sit through guest lecturers brought in by my professor who denied the rape, assault, and mutilation of Israeli women and girls during the October 7th attack, celebrated Aaron Bushnell, who set himself on fire outside the Israeli embassy here in DC as a true, quote, patriot, and spoke of Israel to a group of who we now know are highly impressionable students as a, quote, imperialist colonial state that is, quote, committing genocide. I was also forced to face the reality that the student community I had come to cherish so dearly, my Barnard community, was a figment of my imagination. This was clarified for me with each call to globalize the Intifada, to burn Tel Aviv to the ground, and to bring death to the Jewish state. All calls that I heard on my campus, Columbia University, this year. So yes, as I stand here now, nearly 1 month after graduation, I am overcome with emotion, grief, pain, and sorrow, mostly. As is core to the Jewish spirit, I am filled also with strength, with determination, and with hope. Because for each friend I lost to anti-Semitism this year, I gained at least twice as many in Zionists. While we have all had to work this year to make sure the world hears and listens to our cries, the cries of Jewish students in agony, I would be remiss if I did not equally apprise you all of the way in which Jewish students, especially at Columbia, united to support each other, to support the Jewish state of Israel. Thank you. I am honored to be here to represent the Jewish student community at Columbia and Barnard in the shadow of Sharon's impactful legacy. I know an anxiety that has pervaded the older generations is that we, the younger generation, are not equipped to withstand the fear this latest strain of anti-Semitism has instilled in all of us. So let me reassure you all now, your daughters, your sons, your nieces, your nephews, your grandchildren did not yield 1 inch to the fear we faced this year. It is how I am able to stand in front of you all today, and we will continue to stand strong in the face of hatred of all forms, as we always have. Now, this brings me to one final emotion with which I am also overcome, and that is love, a feeling that has been sorely lacking across my entire generation. But let me again reassure you all now, I am but one of many, many Jewish students who is filled with love. My sisters and brothers and I, your daughters, sons, nieces, nephews, and grandchildren, love each other. We love being Jewish, and we love the state of Israel. That is both why and how we did not crumble this year. So thank you again to the Greene family and to AJC for supporting Jewish students as we weather this storm. I know we will continue to stand strong as our parents and grandparents have done before us. Toda raba.
It is an unbelievable honor to stand here today to address all of you at AJC Global Forum. I want to start by thanking the American Jewish Committee and the entire Greene family for making this possible and for honoring us, the German Union of Jewish Students, with this award. When I first became president of the German Union of Jewish Students a year ago, I had high aspirations. I wanted to create more educational opportunities for young Jews. I wanted to open doors for Jews in Germany to thrive socially, culturally, and communally. And most importantly, I wanted to focus on Jewish pride. But as we all know, on October 7th, we all woke up in a new, cruel reality. Since the morning that Hamas terrorists invaded the south of Israel, murdering, raping, and kidnapping our brothers and sisters, we, both as an organization and privately, have been on the front lines of a war we never could have imagined reaching our community. Since then, we have spent every free minute advocating for the safe return of all hostages, supporting Jewish students across the country, meeting with politicians and fighting for a world without anti-Semitism, a world in which everyone can be safe and where no student is afraid to be Jewish on their campus. Today, I stand here representing the young Jewish generation of Germany. 90% of us have roots in the former Soviet Union. We are the first generation to grow up in Germany. Our parents and grandparents left everything behind to give us a better future, a future without religious persecution and fear. And yet, here we are in a world that our grandparents never could have imagined, a world where anti-Semitism and hatred is allowed to run rampant. However, the experiences of the generations before us have shaped our actions today. This is why, no matter what, and no matter how dark it might seem, we will never give up fighting for a world without anti-Semitism. This is Sharon's legacy that I am so proud to have been chosen to represent today. We will never give up standing up for freedom and democracy in a world where our children and grandchildren will only know the term anti-Semitism from history books. I want to once again express my deepest gratitude to AJC and the Greene family for believing in us and supporting our work in Germany. I also want to thank my board, Norm, Debbie, Kobe, Lisa, Alex, Esti, and Sima for everything they've done for Jewish students in the past months. And I want to dedicate this award to all the European Jewish student leaders that are in this room today, who all are working so hard to create a safe environment for Jewish students across the continent. Together, we will continue fighting and showing that there cannot be a Europe without Jews. We will never let the hate win. Thank you.
I'm from Boston, Massachusetts.
I'm from Australia.
I'm from New York,
Italy,
Canada.
I'm from Israel.
Frankfurt, Germany.
I'm from Dallas, Texas.
And I'm a member
of the AJC Campus Global Board.
What's giving me hope as a Jewish leader on campus today are all of the people who want to see a brighter future.
American Jewish Committee has given me the opportunity to be on a board with Jewish students from across the world.
We're a groundbreaking, dynamic group informing AJC's work from a campus perspective and also devising the best ways to bring AJC's resources to campus.
Ensuring that it allows not just American voices, but international voices to be in the conversation.
After the October 7th massacre, we have had a lot of fear and anger and anxiety.
I've seen Jewish students hiding their identity, not going to campus anymore, not saying their real name because it's just too Jewish sounding.
Students are being beaten up after attending rallies or demonstrations that are pro-Israel.
Jews have become synonymous with everything that is hated, whether that be colonialism or white supremacy or privilege.
I want a future without anti-Semitism.
I think after October 7th, it's way more important for us to say, we are Jewish and we are here, we are everywhere.
I want to make sure that the legacy that I leave behind is one where all Jewish students feel welcome.
AJC is making it possible for us to do just that. AJC is empowering the leaders, not only of tomorrow, but of today.
They bring students to high-level meetings to really get involved in solving some of the biggest problems in society today.
We've come together to stand up for Israel and stand up for the Jewish people in a way that we would not have otherwise.
I really don't know where we would be on campus without AJC.
My name's Eliza.
Tamara.
Abe.
Jonathan.
Nati.
Meredith.
My name is Ryan.
Katerina.
I'm Jewish
and I'm proud. Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Please welcome AJC Director of Academic Affairs, Dr. Sarah Kudin.
Good evening. I'm Sarah Kudin, AJC's Director of Academic Affairs. In the months since the October 7th terror attacks, American campuses have taken center stage as sites of fierce anti-Israel activism and anti-Semitic vitriol. Tonight, we'll turn our attention to university presidents who sit at the helm of institutions of higher learning. University leaders have faced a unique set of challenges this academic year that have placed their decision-making in the spotlight in ways that are without precedent in this country. Our collective attention has been so highly attuned to campus and to university presidents, to their public statements, their testimony before Congress, their responses to the encampments. So many of us have watched with heavy hearts and even heavier expectations as university presidents have navigated issues of free speech, academic freedom, and ideals of opportunity and inclusivity in the face of a rising tide of anti-Jewish sentiment, both inside and outside classrooms, that has threatened those ideals. We will now have the chance to hear from two critically important voices from the very top who can speak to the role of university leadership during a time of crisis. We'll hear first from Ron Liebowitz, president of Brandeis University, who's focused on charting a clear and definitive course for Brandeis to confront anti-Semitism in the wake of October 7th. And he was the first university leader to revoke the charter of the activist group SJP on his campus. President Liebowitz will be in conversation with my colleague, Dr. Laura Shaw-Frank, AJC Director of the William Petchik Contemporary Jewish Life Department, who oversees AJC's entire spectrum of educational advocacy work. We'll then hear from Santa Ono, president of the University of Michigan. Michigan has been the site of long-standing, amplified protest activity, and it faces unique challenges. Its campus population boasts significant numbers of both Jewish and Palestinian students. Michigan is also a public university, meaning that it's subject to the First Amendment's broad conception of free speech that also includes hate speech. Santa Ona, who became president of the University of Michigan not terribly long ago in 2022, will be in conversation with AJC CEO Ted Deutsch. To start us off, please join me in welcoming Ron and Laura to the stage.
President Liebowitz, Ron, we're so honored to have you here with us this evening. You've been a voice of moral clarity in this period since October 7th, and we have an enormous amount to discuss, so I'm going to dive right in. Sure. I don't need to say that this was a very challenging year on campus, particularly when it comes to student activism and challenges to even the broadest notions of campus free speech. You've had to balance that free speech against the need to maintain an environment free from discrimination and harassment. What lessons would you say you learned this year about how to handle protest on campus?
First of all, let me say thank you for inviting me this evening. It's a wonderful opportunity to speak to so many, and unlike a faculty meeting, it looks like a friendly crowd. I would say there are a lot of lessons learned along the way this past year. And perhaps the most important ones were not being prepared for what we saw this past year. I'm going to leave it. Specifically, seeing our campus react in such a way to October 7th and having no sense of things related to First Amendment rights or to free speech or the responsibilities that come with free speech, the time, place, manner aspects. It was only 6 years earlier when Brandeis passed principles of free expression on campus and spent a year and a half debating and discussing it with a lot of tension, a lot of opposition, but in the end, a passage both by the campus community and also by the Board of Trustees. So it was very odd to see how people felt all of a sudden that there was unfettered free speech on campus. So that was one thing. The more important thing to deal with as a leader, I think, was recognizing how strong the double standard is when it comes to Jews and when it comes to Israel. This might have been beneath the surface for many years and a long time, but it became quite evident in conversation, in discussion, and in faculty meetings when we debated whether or not one can suppress speech and still have a vibrant academic community. I think those were the things that I learned most.
Could we delve a little bit more into the issue of free speech? How have you managed that? Brandeis is a private university, so you have a little bit more leeway with respect to creating frameworks for speech on campus than a public university, for example. So how have you managed the issue of speech? Which forms of speech, except particularly campus protest speech, require intervention, and which ones don't?
Well, it's a judgment call. As I mentioned, we had the principles for free expression, which were high and mighty. They were very idealistic in some ways, but they were never really operationalized, put to the test, as we had after October 7th. In my view, we are a private institution, and so we can, of course, have limits to some types of speech. As an academic myself, of course, I believe very strongly in free speech. It's really the only way to engage in differences and learn from one another. However, there is a point by which or beyond which I think one starts infringing upon the academic mission of the institution. And so I draw the red line where things like Title VI become intimidating, harassment, incitement to violence, and really denigrating individuals. It doesn't advance the educational mission to have people screaming death to others. That does not advance any education. And in my conversations on campus, I've deemed that type of speech gratuitous speech rather than free speech. And we want to protect free speech, but it's in the name of the educational mission, and that's where we draw the line.
Another central issue, and you already alluded to it, that presidents have had to grapple with this year is the issue of academic freedom. We've all seen many examples of university faculty members from around the country who hold views that are anti-Zionist and anti-Semitic, and even use their positions as faculty members to platform those views. On the one hand, faculty in institutions of higher education, particularly tenured faculty, enjoy academic freedom, and they should and they must. On the other hand, activist classroom spaces and other behavior of faculty have really contributed to the toxic atmosphere for Jewish students on campus. How have you managed this issue at Brandeis?
One thing I tried to do was to send out a clarifying memo, not so necessarily warmly received by all faculty, but it tried to remind folks as to what academic freedom is and isn't. Academic freedom is critical, of course, for the advancement of any discipline, the pursuit of knowledge, the pursuit of truth. However, it doesn't give anyone the right to say anything at any time in any classroom. And in the classroom, academic freedom gives the faculty member the right to assign readings, to lecture on things in his or her expertise. It doesn't allow me, as a geographer, Russian specialist, to go into a room and pontificate about something about which I am not an expert. That is not academic freedom. I can do it outside the classroom. I can do it outside of the context of Brandeis University, but it's not right for the faculty member. It's not academic freedom to pontificate on any and all issues in the classroom. We haven't had many of those circumstances at Brandeis, and our students are very outspoken. I've only heard a few of these, and I check weekly in our Office of Equal Opportunity where students can go to make lodge such complaints. We've had a few, and one good example is when a faculty member postponed or canceled class to allow students to go to a pro-Palestinian protest. I'm not against pro-Palestinian protests whatsoever, but for a faculty member to take a position to cancel class, not to reschedule it, but also to put students in that class who don't want to go to the rally and have very different views for what that rally was about, really shows poor judgment and really, in my view, is a violation of academic freedom. And so we had the conversation. We brought in the faculty member, and we made it clear that we have these conversations when they happen. And the faculty member was actually more open-minded about this, hadn't really recognized what atmosphere in the classroom that she was creating. But that's what we do. We try to have conversations first. And luckily, at least for me and for Brandeis, we haven't had many of these situations.
How should universities be looking at conversations about BDS, boycott, divest, and sanction movement that calls for sidelining and exclusion of Israel, or any kind of call for restriction on academic and economic engagement with Israel? Has that been an issue at Brandeis, and how have you managed it?
It hasn't been a real visible issue until we had conversations at said faculty meetings over the course of the last 5 months, where faculty members were trying to understand, where the line was drawn between what is anti-Semitism and what is anti-Zionism. And we talked about the Venn diagram and where they intersect. And some faculty members would stand up and say, I am Jewish, as a Jew. I'm very much for BDS. Ron, do you consider me an anti-Semite? I held my tongue in those big faculty meetings, but in small venues, I had 9 or 10 small meetings with faculty, anywhere from 7 to 15 faculty members to talk about campus climate and to talk more specifically about these issues. And that same individual repeated the question to me in the small conversation group and said to me, I'm a Jew, I'm a philosopher, and I'd like to know whether or not you think I'm an anti-Semite because I'm a strong supporter of BDS. And my only response to the individual was, I can't tell whether or not you're an anti-Semite or not, but tell me this. What other BDS movements are you involved in other than the one with Israel? And there was silence. So on our campus, luckily, there hasn't been much of a BDS movement. Who knows what will happen come the fall. But I also remember before I became president at Brandeis, I was at Middlebury College, president at Middlebury. And in 2014, the American Studies Association was the first professional association to vote for BDS. And I remember Middlebury and Brandeis were the 2 universities that came out very strongly against that vote. And I was very impressed by what I saw at Brandeis. That was back in 2013-14. So we haven't had all that much BDS on campus yet.
Let's hope it stays that way. I want to turn my attention to some of the bigger questions on campus that intersect with anti-Semitism. We know, for example, that siloing and polarization are real problems in American society today, and the dialogue across difference is rare. And we also know that that reality is inextricably intertwined with anti-Semitism that we've seen on campus. How are you thinking about breaking down barriers between different groups of students that divide students and fostering dialogue across difference at Brandeis?
We've been thinking about this and talking about this even before October 7th. Brandeis is a place where Jewish students are no longer the majority, but they are the largest group of any student group, and a very strong presence on campus, and great diversity within that student group as well. It's a very rich, engaged, and really unified group. But we always worry. My job, of course, as president of the institution is to protect the safety and the environmental atmosphere for all students on campus, not just Jewish students, not just other students, all students. So we've been concerned about this for quite a while because what happens on campus is a reflection much of what's going on in society. And as societies become siloed, as you say, and divisive within itself, we have feared that as well. We haven't been as successful in this area as we had hoped. We tried a lot of things after October 7th. We tried learning circles, which is big in the Native American community, which is different from just having group encounters because it has a respectful presence for each individual who states their case without any response. But there's a scribe who collects all the information and then, of course, shares it and then go into a second round of these conversations as well. We had a teach-in. We canceled classes to have a full day of teach-in with panels of specialists on the conflict. We had panels that were sponsored by the Schusterman Center for Israel Studies and the Crown Center for Middle East Studies with experts from the greater Boston area. All these things happened over the course of 3 or 4 months. And the biggest disappointment was that there were large turnouts of faculty and staff, smaller turnouts of students. And when we engaged the students to talk to them, they just felt that they'd been through a lot, and they felt and they feared that they were putting into jeopardy a lot of the friendships that they had on campus by coming to these and speaking out. So we're back to the drawing board trying to figure out the best way to do this. In the fall, we'll have Khalil Shikaki and Shai Feldman, a Palestinian from Ramallah, and Shai Feldman's an Israeli from Tel Aviv who's on the Brandeis faculty. They'll be teaching a course that they've taught before 9 times, but not for the last 4 years, on the conflict and how to teach and learn about the conflict. We're looking forward to that and having some events related to that to get more students drawn in. But this is our big challenge. It's really, really difficult. Students don't want to risk their relationships on campus. And it's not, in essence, at Brandeis at least, about fearing grades or insulting faculty. It's more the cohesion and cohesiveness of the community that's very, very important to the students at this point.
This spring, Brandeis took the step of extending the date by which students could apply to transfer to Brandeis from other universities. Could you talk a little bit about your decision to make that policy change? Why did you think that that was an important thing to do in this moment?
I think we were watching what was going on so many campuses, seeing what was happening and recognizing it was late in the semester, and we had a deadline normally for transfers that was at the end of April. And at that point, we said to ourselves, which students who wanted to just pursue their academic work outside of all this mishigas on their campuses could do so? And what would be their path to do it? Would they all have to take off? Would they take a year off? What would they do? And so we had this conversation, and I think if you saw the notice that went out, it wasn't just for Jewish students, although we were focused primarily on Jewish students, but it was for all students, and we noted that because we had heard in some conversations, just in talking to friends and talking to relatives and people across the country, that a lot of students just wanted to pursue their studies. They didn't like the interventions that were going on. They didn't like that at Columbia they could not go into the dining halls or library for 2.5 weeks. And you question what that did to their studies. And so we decided to open the doors and invite those who wish to do that. We put it towards the end, May 31st, because we figured April 22nd, April 29th, too close to finals. Students would not really have presence of mind to apply. And so we kept the deadline open till May 31st with decisions to come on June 30th.
I know many people are grateful for that. So none of us can accurately anticipate what's going to happen this fall, but we imagine that you and your team are carefully preparing for a range of scenarios on Brandeis's campus come September, including perhaps student protests, including all kinds of possibilities. So how are you preparing for the fall?
We're trying to make best use of all the remarkable resources we have on our campus, and many campuses have as well, to engage students in smaller groups. We're engaging our 5 chaplains in our chaplain's office of all faiths to have multi-faith conversations, interfaith conversations. We're talking to our research centers. We have 5 research centers at Brandeis that deal with the Jewish experience and also Israel. We're getting them to sort of host, encouraging them to host events that they can engage in small groups. We recognize that big group meetings aren't really effective. So we're trying to do as much to engage students. My whole senior staff recognizes that students might feel a little intimidated to come in and talk about campus climate to the president, so they're holding extra office hours specifically for students to come in small groups to meet with them as well. But we're all ears. If people have really good ideas on how to open this up, because it's been very, very challenging, we're all ears.
And last but not least, we are here in a room full of prospective and current university students, parents and grandparents, all of whom are really keen to know that the future for Jewish students will be a bright one of unfettered opportunity, as we have known in the past in America, the recent past. What role do you see Brandeis playing in the national conversation about fostering inclusive and fair environments for Jewish students in the higher education space?
Boy, well, Brandeis has a special place in higher education in the United States. It's the singular, secular, Jewish-founded institution in the country. And I believe, at least as president, with that comes responsibility to the American Jewish community and to Jewish students today and future Jewish students. So in addition to the excellent academic resources that I mentioned before, we launched a multi-pronged program on anti-Semitism at Brandeis about 15 months ago. This was with the support of Robert Kraft and the Kraft Foundation to Combat Anti-Semitism. Robert and his foundation gave us the funds to create 3 programs, one that addressed students, one that addressed leaders in higher education, and one that addressed our Hornstein Professional Jewish Leadership Program. All 3 of these areas, I believe, will combine to address the 3 areas that need to engage in anti-Semitism to make a difference in the future. The first program for students gives them opportunities to work throughout the economy in multiple sectors to see how anti-Semitism shows up. They do research, they work with professionals, and they gain valuable experience. The hope is that they come back to campus, share that information, work with faculty, and spread the word that way. The second program is something that I'm very partial to, because I believe strongly that you can't leave the onus on all the students. If leadership at universities and colleges don't understand what anti-Semitism is and how best to address it, I don't think we have a chance in higher education. So leadership is important. Rachel Fish, who some of you saw earlier today, is leading that part of the program. It's a very, very important program. We've already had 3 or 4 major events with over 100 leaders in higher education, and this is deans of students, deans of academic affairs, provosts, DEI officers who come together and hear from experts about Judaism, about anti-Semitism, about Zionism and anti-Zionism, giving them a foundation and a base to understand. We've also started programs K through 12 as well, where teachers will come into Brandeis, where Rachel puts together a program for a day or 2 days. We just completed a 4-day institute at Brandeis this past Friday, doing the similar things. So we're very committed to this teaching and outreach in the area of anti-Semitism. And the Hornstein program is really just preparing future professional Jewish leaders, and we're revamping the whole curriculum to bring modules and anti-Semitism into the curriculum. In addition, we have the Cohen Center for the Study of Modern Judaism, which has done remarkable work on Jewish communities throughout the country for years, and now is very much focused on anti-Semitism on university campuses and trying to really understand both the Jewish population and the non-Jewish population's attitudes. So I think Brandeis has this role to play. It's a sort of a new role in addition to the academics, but I think it's really our calling and it's our responsibility.
Thank you. We are so grateful for your moral clarity and your incredible leadership, and I think that this entire audience, and indeed the entire American Jewish community, can take an enormous amount of pride in Brandeis University.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please welcome President of the University of Michigan, Dr. Santa Ono, and AJC CEO and Michigan alumnus Ted Deutsch.
President Ono, thank you for being with us. We have a very serious topic at hand. I will dispense with any other conversation only by referencing the national championship this year. Congratulations.
Go Blue.
Now, that's it. Okay, this has been, President Ono, this has been a really challenging year for Jewish students across America and around the world. You saw that. I know you were watching intently as Noah and Hannah shared their experiences from their campuses. At Michigan, we saw anti-Semitic rhetoric. It was a difficult year. You had to contend with an encampment, protests. I'd like to start by focusing on the issue of the encampment and how you reached the decision to ask the protesters to remove the encampment, and when they refused, ultimately, to remove it, what did you do?
Well, thank you very much for the question. By the way, thank you for inviting me to be part of this AJC Global Summit or Forum. It's incredibly important, this conversation, and I'm happy to be here with all of you. As occurred in about 120 other colleges and universities, we did have an encampment. It persisted on our campus for 3.5 weeks. It started soon after the Columbia one. And as you know, being an alumnus, the University of Michigan has a long history of supporting student activism. And so in that context, and with it being peaceful for much of that time, it went on, and I had a number of conversations with students of all types regarding the encampment. I spoke to the executive students on Hillel, as well as students called an organization called FOG, Facts on the Ground, and they're inspirational Jewish students, much like Hannah and Noah at the University of Michigan. And we had conversations, and we were verging on graduation. And I asked them, should we intervene right now? Because already it was clear that that resulted in escalation and violence. And I got the clear advice from the students that they said, first, we are the COVID class that didn't have a graduation from high school. Please don't do anything to escalate things in the last few days of class and exams. And please give us a graduation we didn't have for high school. And as you know, we did that, and then soon thereafter, we asked many, many times for the individuals in the encampment to voluntarily decamp, and they refused. And ultimately what happened was that these become very dangerous. They're fortified, the tents are very flammable, there was quite a bit of wiring going into a limited number of sockets for electricity. There was some open flame, and despite a number of requests to take the encampment down, it did not occur, and so we had to go in and involuntarily remove the tents. And so that's how it happened at Michigan.
And ultimately, with the intimidation that students felt, there were rules, certainly rules in place that affected the safety of students on campus. You told them to take it down, they didn't, and you came in and took it apart.
Absolutely, it is the right thing to do. If it weren't for the request that we not escalate matters because of the desire to finish the semester and have graduation, it's very likely that we would have taken them down earlier. But that is a wish that I wanted to really grant, that graduation. And I recognize the reason why I was really interested in perhaps taking down earlier is because every day the tents were there were painful for Jewish students. And I knew that, and it was wrong, and I wanted to step in earlier.
I appreciate that. And on that, just to continue there and your acknowledgement of how painful it was and what some of the challenges that exist even now, there was recently an anti-Semitic attack on one of your regents' places of work, Regent Acker's workplace. And you've said clearly that harassment and attempts to intimidate have no place in civil society. So the question is, with respect to harassment and attempts to intimidate, what steps are you taking to protect Jewish students and Jewish faculty on your campus?
Well, I've been very clear after the tents were taken down that I will have zero tolerance for this happening again. And I have said very clearly that moving forward, the University of Michigan will hold individuals accountable for any violation of civil or criminal statute. Enough is enough.
One of the issues that comes up, it was just part of the conversation that Laura engaged in, is on the topic of BDS. President Oda, there are some universities that ended their encampments by agreeing to consider BDS, by agreeing to consider canceling exchange programs with Israel. I would ask you, how should universities be looking at conversations about BDS or any kinds of calls for restrictions on academic engagement with Israel? How's that played out on your campus?
Well, I'll tell you my personal response and then the response of the institution.
Okay.
First of all, I've been the president of 3 universities, the University of Cincinnati, the University of British Columbia, and the University of Michigan. And in each of these institutions, I have made it clear that I am personally against BDS. And the reasons are simple. BDS is anti-Semitism because boycotting one nation, in this case Israel, to the exclusion of any other nation is nothing other than anti-Semitism, and it's antithetical to my personal values, first of all.
Yeah. And the calls, some universities have considered BDS. They've considered ending academic engagement with Israel. Can you tell us about Michigan's relationship with Israeli institutions, academic exchanges? How are you approaching that issue?
Soon after October 7th, in one of my communications, I said that we would actually enhance our relationships with Israeli institutions for a variety of reasons. Number one, the University of Michigan is in its 2nd decade of incredibly productive interactions with Israeli universities, with Technion, with Weizmann Institute. Incredible discoveries that benefit all of mankind have come out of that relationship between Michigan and these universities. It's simply ludicrous for an institution like Michigan that has global links, we had a global forum, to cut bridges. Universities are meant to build bridges for the benefit of humanity. So we will not even consider, we will actually build bridges and enhance those kinds of collaborations for the benefit of students around the world.
Thank you. I'd like to turn specifically to your thought. We've talked about the anti-Semitism, anti-Semitic rhetoric, and the response. I'd like to talk about the focus on anti-Semitism by the university, starting with a recently inaugurated Wallenberg Institute for the Study of Anti-Semitism. What will that do? Why is this a priority for the University of Michigan? And what impact, as we discuss the threats of anti-Semitism to the Jewish community, Jewish students at Michigan and around the country, what kind of impact can a center like that have on your own university and perhaps even beyond?
Well, let me start off by talking to you about who Raoul Wallenberg was. He was a righteous among nations, recognized individual of Swedish origin, who was a graduate of the University of Michigan. in 1935. But the reason why he was so honored was because he saved single-handedly thousands of Jewish lives during the Holocaust by providing passports and providing a safe place for them to hide during the Holocaust. And he's a person that we celebrate at the University of Michigan. And the reason why the Wallenberg Institute was created was we thought about it in the early days of my presidency, that if you have someone of that caliber, we should celebrate them because students and faculty and staff should emulate Raoul Wallenberg. And so we wanted to create this institute where we would teach people about his values, that we would bring people together to understand the root causes of anti-Semitism, and where we would have curriculum and so that all students could understand the dangers of anti-Semitism or any kind of hate against a religious group. And so that we could also model civil discourse, which is so lacking today, that it would be a venue where people could talk about issues, geopolitical issues, in a calm and civil manner. And for that reason, we wanted to do it early on, even before October 7th, and after October 7th, it became even more urgent that we do so. And I'm really looking forward to the impact it has, not only on Michigan, but hopefully on the world. We need to lead at the University of Michigan. We have, since the 1920s, when the Ivy League schools had quotas and a number of Jewish students that matriculate, we opened our doors to Jewish students. We are one of the largest student bodies for Jewish students. We have 6,000 students who are Jewish. And for that reason, it's a part of our history, part of our tradition. It's imperative that I, as president, take a leadership role in making sure that they thrive and feel welcomed on our campuses.
Thank you. So, President Ono, if I could then just follow up on that response, how are you preparing for the fall to address what I think everyone here acknowledges is the high probability of new forms of protest, anti-Semitic statements, calls for the destruction of Israel? We appreciate the center and the academic approach, but how are you thinking about and what are you doing to anticipate the fall?
It will be a multifaceted approach. We are very hard at work, as is the case on all the colleges and universities across the nation. In addition to the Wallenberg Institute, we're thinking about how to create new spaces beyond the Wallenberg Institute for civil discourse. We're actually committing the whole year to a year of democracy and civic engagement. That's how important it is for us. But we will also, as an institution, like I said, double down on our connections with universities and institutes. In Israel, we will be at events like this because we want to interact with you. We need your help. We need to be in this all together to combat anti-Semitism.
And thank you for giving me this opening. Michigan has partnered with AJC on a number of initiatives already. We've taken university leaders to Israel on Project Interchange. We're partnering on anti-Semitism education for faculty and staff. And our second University President Summit is coming up this fall. We hope, President Ono, with your participation, tell us why, first of all, why is it a priority to engage in this work with an organization like AJC?
Well, I'm very grateful to AJC for the collaborations that we already have. And some of you may know that we will be providing anti-Semitism education and training to faculty, staff, and students, and even alumni. And we have already leaned heavily on the AJC, and we're very, very grateful for all the expertise that exists here. I have been to Israel. I love Israel, and I can't wait to go back. And you will find me in many, many events such as this because I want to listen. I want our students, not only those at Michigan, but everywhere, to know that the presidents of the colleges and universities care about them. It's important. It's important for the entire community of university leaders to be as brave as the students that we heard from, Noah and Hannah. I'm nothing compared to them, but we have to step up to the plate. We have to be at the table. We have to be clear and speak with moral clarity about what is right and what is wrong.
President Ono, it shouldn't be that hard to say in front of almost 2,000 Jewish leaders from around the world that we have to speak with moral clarity about this moment, but unfortunately for too many it is. Thank you for saying that out loud with us. And finally, President Ono, we have several hundred campus leaders from around the world who are here at Global Forum. Jewish students want to know that their university officials are listening to them, that they will engage with them. And they want to know that their university presidents will engage with them as they would with any other student population. Tell us what, as we prepare to wrap, tell us what you'll be doing this fall to ensure that you're actually listening to student voices on campus in the face of this anti-Semitism that we've seen since 10/7.
I'll be very honest with you. During this year, as you say, it's been a very difficult year. If there was one thing I would do better, it would be more present for our students. You know, I'm not going to wait till the fall to answer your question. I was approached by the executive of Hillel, by Facts on the Ground, FOG, and these students, every single one of them are inspirational, just like Noah and Hannah on our campus. And I've spent time with them. I would have done it earlier if I were to do it again, but I have met with them before the end of the semester. I'm going to meet with them before they come to campus. I'm going to meet with them regularly throughout the year. I was going to go to Hillel for Shabbat dinner, and some of you may know that I went there. When I was going there, it got out that I was going to attend, and there was a concern that I would be a disruption to what should have been a joyous occasion. This time around, no matter what happens, I'm going to go there because being present is important.
And so, President Ono, do you have a message specifically for the students? I think so often in these meetings we talk about the students, but they're here. They deserve to hear from you.
Well, I don't know. Could the students stand? I can't see all of you. Could you please stand so we can give you a round of applause? Please stand. This is what I want to say to all of you. Thank you for inspiring leaders like me. You know, I was close to tears in listening to Noah and Hannah, their bravery. You know, the one thing when I was speaking to Barack Obama when he spoke in Vancouver that gives, in that case, him, but in this case, me, hope, is the amazing clarity, integrity, and civility of the next generation that comes behind us. And what I want to say to you in my last few seconds is whether you're from the University of Michigan or the University of Cincinnati or any of the colleges and universities around the world, I want you to know that we will stand with you. We hear you, and we're going to do everything we can to make this year a better year than last year. Thank you so much.
President Santa Ono, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
First of all, I should just say it shouldn't be that hard to speak with moral clarity. Thank you, President Ono, again. I would now, especially after President Ono's kind reference, I would like to invite out on the stage with me the CEO and President of Hillel International, Adam Lehman. One year ago, none of us could have imagined the state of higher education today. On October 8th and in the months following, Jewish students have felt ostracized, isolated, faced outright anti-Semitism simply because of their identity as Jews and their support for Israel. A growing number of students face violent threats and physical attacks. On many of the nation's leading campuses, activists and emboldened faculty and students are silencing Jewish and Zionist voices in classrooms and in campus life. Rallying calls like globalize the Intifada and resistance by any means have made glorifying violence commonplace. And as the last few weeks have shown, we witnessed a complete loss of control at too many universities across the nation. Anti-Israel encampments became hotbeds of anti-Semitism and were anything but peaceful. Graduations have been disrupted and ruined. Campus life has become unbearable for too many Jewish students. This must not be tolerated, and there has never been a greater need for strong and principled university leadership. Administrators must simply act to meet this defining moment.
In the face of the greatest deterioration of campus climate that we have seen in decades, really perhaps ever, our Jewish students have shown remarkable resilience, pride, courage, and moral clarity. At Hillels across the country and around the world, our students have led the way. In the fall, organizing hundreds of powerful rallies and vigils to mourn the losses of 10/7 and elevate the plight of the hostages, reaching more than 100,000 students. In February, coming together with 800 members of our Israel Leadership Network, many of whom are student leaders with AJC as well, coming together for our I-Summit, our Israel Summit, to learn, to share, and to gain strength from one another. And in the spring, responding to this latest and really atrocious wave of campus challenges, calling on their administrators to strengthen and enforce their campus rules in order to protect the basic civil rights of Jewish students and all students. Now, alongside these many challenges this year, we have positives. First of all, we have a partnership between Hillel and AJC, and I want to celebrate that. Under Ted's leadership, that of his team, and really the support of all of you, we are stronger together and we will accomplish more together. We also have the positive of not enough, but some courageous, principled university leaders, and we heard from Presidents Ono and Liebowitz, and we need to lift up and celebrate their leadership. Let's give them another round of applause. And most of all, we can celebrate the vibrancy of Jewish life that is still taking place on campus and really at levels we've never seen before. As you heard from Noah, Hillel serves on so many campuses as the Jewish home for students, a place for both joy and respite. Hillels, I'm happy to announce, have actually engaged this year more students than ever before, more than 180,000 young adults and students who have come together. Yeah, we should celebrate that. They've come together to learn, to engage in community service, to develop themselves as leaders like Noah, Hannah, Micah, so many others, to engage in Jewish practice, and to really just advance their Jewish journeys and their life journeys. The response and courage of Jewish students this past year should give us all great hope for the future. At the same time, we owe it to them and to all students of good conscience to fix what is broken on our campuses. We need to return them to welcoming environments for learning and student life that enable the respectful and open exchange of ideas and that embrace a diversity of opinion, cultures, and identities.
And that is why this spring, AJC and Hillel International announced an expanded partnership to deepen our organization's critical work with university presidents and administrators and to collectively combat anti-Semitism on campus. Rightfully so, there have been many demands for more cooperation and coordination within the Jewish world to better safeguard our community. Adam and I hope sincerely that our presence here together demonstrates how committed we are to that collaborative spirit. We all just heard from President Liebowitz and President Ono that safeguarding the campus environment takes expertise, it takes dedication, and it takes continued action. As organizations with decades of experience countering anti-Semitism on campus and strengthening Jewish life, this partnership is a vital step that will improve the campus climate and reach hundreds of universities. Next year, AJC's Project Interchange, our groundbreaking Israel Educational Institute, will partner with Hillel's flagship Campus Climate Initiative to bring a joint delegation of university and college leadership from across the country to Israel to learn firsthand about Israel and about Jewish identity.
Along with experiential education for administrators, in just 4 months, right here in Washington, D.C., we will gather with more than 100 university presidents and administrators from across the country for our second University Presidents Summit on Campus Anti-Semitism, held in partnership with AJC and with the American Council on Education. It will be hosted by Johns Hopkins University President Ron Daniels, an AJC Project Interchange alumnus, and a longtime friend and partner to Hopkins Hillel. This summit will generate crucial dialogue and actionable steps for higher education leaders to use in addressing the unacceptable conditions on so many of our campuses.
The anti-Semitism that we've seen on campuses this year would have been unimaginable not that long ago. Alongside our partners at Hillel International, we are working together to create the seismic change needed to repair higher education. The time for change is now for our students, for our society, and for our democracy. Adam, we are proud to partner with you. Thank you very, very much.
AJC is the global advocacy organization for the Jewish people. Around the world, from Boston to Buenos Aires, from Athens to Amman, from Sydney to Seoul, AJC is there, working with leaders at the highest levels to support Israel and combat surging anti-Semitism. Through AJC's overseas posts in Jerusalem, Abu Dhabi, Paris, Brussels, Rome, Berlin, Prague, Warsaw, Budapest, Sofia, Johannesburg, New Delhi, Southeast Asia, Tokyo, and Sao Paulo. We engage in diplomacy with over 110 countries, and every day, AJC works with senior officials at the highest levels of the U.S. administration, the U.S. Congress, the European Union, and the United Nations. AJC's advocacy around the world is reinforced, amplified, and inspired by its 25 regional offices across the United States. In the U.S., we defend Israel and the Jewish people by creating diverse coalitions with ethnic and religious groups, strengthening diplomatic ties with consulates, building support for key policies with leaders at all levels of government, and training civil society leaders in business, at universities and in K-12 schools to understand the Jewish community and confront and prevent antisemitism. Since Hamas's October 7th attack on Israel, it's become clear that the Jewish people are facing global challenges. They demand a global response. AJC is proud to be leading this effort. Around the world, wherever Israel and the Jewish people need us, AJC is there, shaping a new and brighter future.
Please welcome Chair of AJC's East Mediterranean and North Africa Institute, Michael Feldstein.
Good evening, Global Forum. As the video you just saw demonstrates, AJC's global network is truly unparalleled, and at the core of our global outreach is the fact that we have working relationships with over 110 countries around the world. Through my experience with AJC in my current role as chair of our Eastern Mediterranean and North Africa Institute, and as recently as last month when we visited Cyprus, I can truly and personally say that Cyprus is one of the best friends Israel could wish to have. AJC leadership delegations have regularly visited Cyprus since the 1980s. Often accompanied by Hellenic American leadership partners with whom we're fortunate to share close bonds. I want to particularly thank our friends from the Hellenic American Leadership Council, led by Andy Zemenides, for their steadfast friendship and support, especially during these difficult times for Israel and the Jewish people. There are many examples of Cyprus's leadership on issues of critical importance to the Jewish people. I will name just a few. Starting in 2013, the island nation played a crucial role in getting the European Union to designate the military wing of Hezbollah as a terrorist group. Cyprus was also an earlier endorser of the IRA definition of anti-Semitism in 2019. Given its location and historic relations with countries across the Middle East, this nearest of European nations to Israel has established itself as an essential bridge builder, friend, partner, and ally of Israel. All this while Cyprus contends with issues of its own, including the fact that a third of its territory is occupied by Turkey. This is a story that must be told, and we stand with Cyprus. We're also proud to support the ever-growing trilateral alliance between Greece, Cyprus, and Israel, and advocate for continued support here in the United States. And we thank the U.S. Ambassador, Julie Fisher, to Cyprus for being with us here today and for hosting us at her residence last month in Cyprus. Since Foreign Minister Constantinos Kombos assumed his role in March 2023, we've had the privilege of engaging with him on multiple occasions, including last month when he welcomed our delegation to his office in Nicosia. That meeting was truly a highlight of the mission to Cyprus and other countries in the region, and we're very grateful that he's made time in his busy schedule to be with us here in Washington as well. Before the Foreign Minister addresses us, I want to thank his government on behalf of AJC and all of us for its solidarity with Israel and the Jewish people following the October 7th massacre and kidnappings by Hamas terrorists, and for the strong condemnation of Iran's unprecedented missile attack against Israel in April. We also want to particularly thank the Cypriot government for its efforts to provide aid to the people of Gaza and its coordination of the humanitarian maritime corridor. Foreign Minister Kombos, we thank you for your steadfast friendship, and we look forward to continuing to work together. Dear friends, please give a very, very warm welcome to His Excellency, the Foreign Minister of Cyprus, Constantinos Kombos.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, it's with great pleasure that I'm joining you here today. I'm thankful and honored to have been invited to address the AJC Global Forum. From the outset, I would like to congratulate the leadership as well as the members of AJC for the extremely valuable work you have been doing. You are an effective advocate for human and civil rights, a committed fighter against racism, a dedicated guardian of religious tolerance, and a determined and vigilant polemic of anti-Semitism. At the same time, your work over the years has political impact. Through that, AJC influences geopolitical thinking and helps morph the diplomatic praxis. It is within this context that one places the constantly deepening ties between Cyprus and the American Jewish community. This is a new reality, and it has historic roots. Yet for too long, it was not nurtured. I'm a firm believer of the usefulness of reflective evaluation, especially when normalization becomes a habit. And this is when complacency starts to appear. So let's remember, our relationship has not always been like what we now take for granted. Just a few years ago, it would have been unusual for me to be here, or for AJC to be the organization with which the Cypriot Minister of Foreign Affairs interacted more frequently in the last year. For this, we owe a debt of gratitude to our predecessors who had a vision to see the obvious. Our interests converge. I publicly expressed deep appreciation for the joint advocacy and cooperation undertaken by AJC and the Hellenic American Leadership Council. We made each other stronger. David Harris, Ted Deutsch, Andy Zemenidis, we thank you. I will be focusing on three aspects or other expressions of our engagement. First, on the Cyprus-Israel relation, second, on the events in the Middle East, and thirdly, on the Cyprus-US relation. It needs to be pointed out that these three are forming a three-dimensional picture. By that I mean that they cannot be separated without distorting the picture. The strategic relation between Cyprus and Israel is a foundation. It came about organically, through trust, honesty, transparency, and careful coordination. These characteristics have enabled close cooperation in security, counterterrorism, defense, energy, and national resources exploitation. Moreover, they are inherently linked to the stability and security of our region. And this has become more critical following the terrorist attacks by Hamas against Israel on October the 7th. Cyprus' approach has been clear from the beginning. First, it's our collective duty, regardless of ethnic or religious background, to be firm and unwavering in our condemnation of such horrific crimes. Terrorism is terrorism. No excuses, no ifs or buts. And the strongest possible condemnation of terror, coupled with the determination to fight it and defeat it, is the only answer. Secondly, Cyprus has forcefully and repeatedly denounced the attacks by Hamas, affirming once again our solidarity with the people in the State of Israel. We have stated at every opportunity that the right to self-defense in accordance with international law is unquestionable. Thirdly, as an EU member state, we have strongly supported dismantling Hamas terrorist capacities and financial network, including through imposing sanctions. We have reiterated that the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages is the key to ending this crisis. It is also necessary to address the so-called day after. We are in complete agreement with both the United States and the European Union about reviving the Middle East peace process. This would be ensuring an enduring security for Israel and all the region. Sixth, it's important that a politically reformed and economically stable Palestinian Authority in Gaza is a guarantee for Israel's peace and security. Let me now turn to what Cyprus has been doing post-October 7th. We have developed the Maritime Corridor Initiative, and this because we could foresee the escalating humanitarian needs, the closing of the crossings, the start of a long military campaign. We could also understand that the wave of international support for Israel would gradually subside. The political pressure would mount against Israel and the humanitarian situation would become dire. All these are interrelated. Therefore, we decided to attempt a back to the future. What I mean? Cyprus has been connected through maritime navigation with the region for thousands of years. So this could be the sea path that could take aid into Gaza through using vessels. And that essentially had one integral precondition, the cooperation with Israel. Cyprus engaged in discussions. We developed a protocol for screening cargo in Cyprus, always in accordance with Israel's elevated security requirements. This has the consequence of making secondary checks obsolete. The technical arrangements have been agreed, and after many trials, failures, frustrations, setbacks, tragedies, and a prolonged period of Cyprus being alone in all this, we did it. Persistence or stubbornness, coupled with methodical work and with a very strong Israel-Cyprus strategic relationship, we managed to attract the attention of the US. The Maritime Corridor has already proven its value, and it's therefore here to stay. We'll continue to build up and scale up. And I want to stress that this is complementing and not substituting any other route for sending humanitarian aid. An international coalition has been formed because of the planning that Cyprus has put together. And the US, with JLOTS, a temporary PR of the Gaza coast, has been instrumental in significantly increasing the quantities of aid going into Gaza, and thus relieving, in part, the political pressure on Israel. Let's not forget that Turkey, with its pro-Hamas approach, has tried and continues to try to prevent and stop this initiative. This is another reminder where Israel's strategic interests lie, as well as that of the United States. In 40 days from today, it's the 50th anniversary of the Turkish invasion in Cyprus. It is imperative that Cyprus remains a free, sovereign, independent state, one that works with and not against the international community, a state that facilitates and does not obstruct. We are grateful to AJC's advocacy, working with HALC for the principled stance it has adopted towards the Cyprus question. Allow me to turn briefly to the tremendous progress we are witnessing in relation to the Cyprus-US relations. And this is a relation that truly serves the interest of the Eastern Mediterranean region. It would not be an exaggeration to state that the solid partnership between Cyprus and the US has now become the norm. We have facilitated evacuations from various hotspots for Americans and other citizens 4 times in the last year. I already made reference to the maritime corridor. And institutionally, this relation has flourished because of the Eastern Mediterranean Security and Energy Partnership Act. This piece of legislation, which attracted bipartisan support both in the Senate and the House, was made possible because of your help. I believe that Cyprus has proven its value for the region, for Israel, for the United States. We can do more. We want to do more. And for that, we need your active involvement. Not just for Cyprus' benefit, but for our common benefit. And I will just give you an example. Every year, the United States lifts its arms embargo against Cyprus. And this is for a duration of 12 months. This doesn't allow us to plan ahead as regards our military needs. As we speak, a bipartisan bill has been introduced in the House to prolong the period from 1 to 5 years. I call on you to lend your support so that this effort comes to fruition. We have made giant steps forward together. With AJC's support, we can do more. We are aiming for more, and this can be our shared vision. Thank you very much.
Anti-Semitism on the rise is unacceptable. Education is the most important piece of that because the studies show ages 18 to 24, they are looking at social media posts and assuming that anything that they read is factual and correct, and it's not. And I think that's why the work that AJC is doing with all of the staff and the lay leaders and our educational piece, the way we're pivoting and we're now focusing on that, is crucial because we have to get the facts, we have to get history out there, and it starts in the schools, middle school, high school. If we help the younger students, I think that we will make a change with anti-Semitism, and I would like, hopefully, that to be different for my children and my grandchildren. There are many, many ways to help. I think it's critical that all Jewish people do something. I cannot say what each individual should do. I choose to support Israel. I choose to make it my #1 priority when it comes to volunteer work, to my financial donations, and I will continue to do it until I am no longer living. I always say I'm just thankful to be a part of the AJC family.
Please welcome AJC Board of Governors member, Ula Zussman.
Thanks, Belle. Good evening, everybody. It's going to be a little slow turning the pages, so bear with me. I have 2 stories about how this happened, but the better story is you should see the other guy. Shortly after October 7th, I learned that if we sat Shiva the week of mourning for everyone that was slaughtered during the massacre on October 7th, we'd be observing Shiva for 23 years. I vowed then that our family would light 3 yortzeit candles every day for the men, women, and children who were slaughtered during the Black Shabbat. Since then, we factored in both soldiers and military personnel who have died defending the only Jewish homeland and the hostages that have already been declared dead. Right now, my husband, my children, and possibly my children's children will be lighting yortzeit candles at least into 2059. So I can't adequately express how incredibly meaningful it is for me to be in a room of 2,000 passionate Jews, Zionists, friends, and allies during these unbelievably difficult times. People who get it, who understand that thoughts and prayers and intellectual debates will not stem the tide and beat back the darkness trying to consume the world whole. I have recently changed my email signature, standard on every email I send out. It reads, if you ever wondered what you would have done in 1930s Germany, you can stop wondering. You're already doing it. And you are all doing it. I wish you could see what I see from this stage. Your souls shine so brightly. I am not alone. We are not alone. This feeling of support, understanding, and united resolve needs to sustain us as we continue to work together to overcome the many challenges with which we are confronted. A year ago, at AJC's Global Forum in Tel Aviv, the country seemed incredibly fragmented, with extensive protests related to judicial overhaul and the divisions in Israeli society coming to the fore. The country appeared embattled in a struggle for its very identity and understanding of itself. 1 year later, Israelis of all backgrounds, faiths, and political affiliations have coalesced into a singular nation, once again facing an existential threat. We know Israel has been forced into its longest war in history, with 120 hostages still in captivity and tens of thousands of Israeli refugees in their own country, some with only the shirts on their backs. To honor all of them, I wear my heart on my figurative sleeve and had an artist paint this on my jacket. The entire country is in a state of uncertainty, still mourning the loss of loved ones. And yet, the Israeli people have come together with incredible spirit and resolve to bring them all home. And to protect the only democracy in the Middle East. We know there are ongoing public disagreements over the war and other political issues, protests, and complex and passionate debates over the very future of the country. And I know full well you did not come to Global Forum to hear me. So we must once again turn to those who are embedded in the realities of Israel. We are honored this evening to have with us a stellar panel of Israeli journalists who are a microcosm of the country, representing a kaleidoscope of political and ideological perspectives. Please join me in welcoming Nurit Canetti, current affairs and news host of Galei Tzahal and chairperson of the Israeli Journalist Association, Nadav Ha'etzni, a journalist from Israel Today, Ro'i Case, the Arab Affairs correspondent from Kan Israeli Public Broadcasting Corporation, and our esteemed moderator, the exceptional, the insightful, the incomparable Dana Weiss, Chief Political and Diplomatic Analyst and host of Saturday with Dana Weiss on Channel 12 News.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you today. We would like to take you to give you some insight and behind the scenes of the headlines in Israel. And as you know, they just keep coming. But mainly, I think I speak on behalf of all of us before we argue, as Israelis do, and mind you, Israeli journalists do. I think we really want to say thank you for the opportunity to feel the energy in this room, feel the support and the reassurance of the unbreakable bond between Jews in the US and in diaspora and Jews in Israel. It's always important, but these days it's ever so needed, and we are busy journalists, but to be here, to take the time to be here, to listen to you all, to see the wonderful leadership, courage, Noah and Hannah in particular, in this crowd. So we want to start with a gesture to you all, and we're going to stand and give you a great thank you for being here and doing what you do. So please. Okay, so now we are standing between you and supper and dinner, but we'll do our best to
entertain you.
So, you know, in my business, I come from TV. We always say that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So I wanted to start today's panel with the picture that you chose from these past eight months and why you chose it. Let's start with you, Nurit.
I chose a picture of Iron Dome. And Iron Dome is an expression of the Israeli force, the Israeli military force and the powerness and the Israeli creativity. But what I feel is since October 7 and till today, it's a disguise. I mean, we are strong. Israel is a strong country and a strong economy. But October 7th and the months since then revealed the problems, revealed the fact that Israel has no policy, that the leaders of Israel, not only now, for decades, the leaders are not brave enough to sit on the table and deeply argue and talk and have a debate, a public debate, about the Israeli problems. We have this amazing rescue operation on Saturday. We have Iron Dome. Everybody sees that and they say, oh, Israel is a very strong country. But what has revealed is that Israel in the inside is fragile and has lots of problems and don't have policy and don't have a vision for its future. And from this point of view, I think this war is not an existential war. It's not that I think that Israel is going to wipe out of the map, but I think that it's existential in a different way, in the way of its citizens sees that it's a long war, sees that there are refugees for tens of thousands of people can't go back to their homes. They see an unfunctioning government, unfunctioning public service, and it gets people tired. No one wants to leave Israel, no one wants to give up on it, but I think that in a deep way, this is an existential war in a society way, and I think that this Iron Dome picture is something that we all like and love to see, but it's time to put off our sleeves and start to work on Israel's future and to have a very hard debate on the public problems and about our future and our policy and our vision.
So Nurit, what you're saying is basically that these events, these past months since October 7th have, and I'm taking a phrase from another subject, have torn down the masks on Israel's society. And I think what you're talking about is the fact that for the first time, Israelis have lost their basic security. So when they had the Iron Dome, they could think, okay, we have the missiles, but we can, continue living because of the Iron Dome. And for the first time, people have lost the security. And I also think for the first time, people want total security, right? Living in Israel was never about total security. Zionism was about going to where it was dangerous to put facts on the ground. Roy, I want you to take us to your picture, and I think your important presence in the panel would be to teach us and guide us through how Israel is perceived in the region vis-a-vis the October 7th.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited to be here, so thank you for the opportunity. And my picture is quite related to the picture of Nurit, because the picture is taken from the historic night of the Iranian attack against Israel. For the first time, Iran attacked Israel directly from his territory, and not via his proxies. And I think it was one of the dramatic moments during the past months. And I think the Iranian attack reflects also the crisis of Israel, but also the opportunity of Israel. What I mean, I think that the crisis of Israel...
But I just want to make sure that people understand the picture.
Yeah.
Okay, this is an image taken on April the 13th over the Mount Temple.
Yeah.
You see the interception and the ballistic missiles, the Iranian ballistic missiles and their interception.
By the way, there was a criticism in the Arab Sunni countries regarding the fact that Iran attacked this place, the third important place in the Islam after Mecca and Medina. But anyway, regarding the crisis, I think it reflects maybe the decrease of the deterrence of Israel in the region. For years, Israel was considered as a reliable player and effective player against the Iranians. The combat against the Iranians via the several operations, also its proxies. And I think something in the image of Israel was damaged in this night, also among friends of Israel in the region, but also among the enemies of Israel. But there is an opportunity because we saw in this night the potential of the regional cooperation between Israel and Arab countries. We saw Arab countries and Western countries who helped Israel to halt this attack, to stop the Iranian attacks. And I think it's very important, Anna, because the cooperation between Israel and the Arab countries is a key element to the solution in the day after the war in Gaza. And this is, if you want, the optimistic side of this picture.
So we will touch about that because this coalition in the region, and I think also the coalition with the West has a price, which I'm sure Nadav will have something to say about it vis-a-vis the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. But let's start with your picture.
May I?
No, Nadav, you start with the picture. I know you, Nadav.
You know me, so you know that I've started with the picture, but I would say...
Of course.
That
I had no doubt.
I would say that I could have also chosen the two pictures that my colleagues had picked up and decided to present to you, but my interpretation would be completely different. And I would say one thing to the Iron Dome, that this is a reflection of the misconception that we sold ourselves in order not to to look in the eyes of reality for over a decade, at least in the past 30 years. And the same, this illusion continues with, actually, sorry, Rui, with the general idea that Rui tried to convey, that we can rely on the Americans, the American, of course, the Biden and so on, and on Arab countries, which is amazing to say this today. But I'll go to my picture. What you will see, if we can screen it.
Yeah, it's on air.
I don't know how many of you have been in the town of Kiryat Shmona, which is at the up north, what we call the finger of the Galilee, almost on the border. And Kiryat Shmona is a vibrant town, and it's not only that, it's a pass to the other directions at north and also to the Golan Heights. And what you see here is 2 weeks ago, it was taken by a photographer from my newspaper, Israel Today. Regular day, look, it's empty. And it was usually 8 months ago, it was completely packed. So there are no people almost completely in Kiryat Shmona. And you see the flag of Israel, which it is there, but unfortunately, I think that the fact that we have such an amount of what we call evacuees, refugees, uprooted people, may we use some kind of other expressions, is the reflection of the lack of leadership. And our main problem today is not the nation, is not the people, and I'll refer to it at the end, definitely in my second picture at the end, is that we have fantastic people, fantastic young generation that is fighting and is willing to sacrifice, fantastic civil society, but we lack leadership. And the result is what we see in this picture and what we see in that it takes 8 months, and we didn't come to what we call finish the job in Gaza.
Nadav, thank you. I want to go back to you, Nurit, because let's dive into, you touched upon what I personally agree with you as the most important issue on the plate, because we will manage the security side. We're strong, we have a strong IDF, we have strong allies, and we'll manage. But you touched about the divide inside. And I want to take you to the new government, right? We are on the verge of a new experiment after these 8 months. And for the first time after 8 months, we no longer have this unity government. Gantz and Eisenkot have stepped away. We are now fighting a war with an ultra-right government. We've never had that before. And we have the defense minister, Gallant, and Benny Gantz stand up in front of all the Israeli public and everyone around the world and say, look, there are political issues which are driving the decision-making. What do you make of that?
First, I want to tell you all that while we're speaking, in Israel, the parliament was voting yes for the first step of a legislation that releases ultra-Orthodox men out of the army. Nowadays, yes, when every day there
It just passed a half an hour ago.
Yeah, half an hour ago. Nowadays, when soldiers are getting killed every day, when the chief of staff says that we don't have enough soldiers, we need 3 more divisions, so now the parliament, the government is ruling the parliament, of course, they have the majority, and they all voted, all but Gallant, the Minister of Defense, who didn't vote yes, he voted no, he voted against it, and they decided, yes, we can release the Haredi men and women out of the army. It's, of course, damage of the equality, but also it's a damage of the Israeli security, because we need more people to fight. And this is a great expression of what's happening now. The government is set only...
It's something completely new.
Huh?
It's something
no,
completely new.
It's not new. No, the audience know that it's not new. It's not new,
okay.
but it's...
I hope they know.
No, okay, so if you don't know, it's not a new thing, but now there is a debate because the Supreme Court sent the government to find a solution because of the inequality of this procedure, and they all voted yes to keep this from happening. And it's the first time. What's new is that the army says we need more soldiers. 2 years ago, they said we don't need them. Send them to work. Now they say we don't have enough soldiers. So this is what is new. Anyway, it expresses the fact that this government works only for itself to stay in power, not thinking about not thinking about division, not thinking about how we're going to end the war and get the best opportunity for Israel, yes, to stay in the region. You can say this solution is good, another solution is good, but let's stop the wars. Let's find a way what to do in the day after. There is no dialogue about the day after. Nobody speaks about the day after. Gantz, before he left the government, he asked again and again the Prime Minister, please let's speak about the solutions of the day after. There was only one debate about it in the cabinet. So we are in a very bad political moment, and most of the people don't agree with a lot of things that this government is leading. Like they say, we don't have to stop the war in order to release the hostages, but in polls, most of the Israeli public says that they are willing to stop the war in order to bring back the hostages, and there are other issues. And I want to say something about the opposition. It's not that I think that in the oppositions there are people, they are waiting for us great leaders. No. Even in the oppositions, there are few people, few right-wing leaders that are waiting to collect the mandates, the voices that the electorates that Netanyahu won't get. But they already declared that they are not willing to make a government with Mansour Abbas. Mansour Abbas is Ram leader. He's an Arab leader. He was in the change government, the government of Bennett and Lapid. And I discovered a very brave leader and a very practical leader that wants the Arab society, which is 20% of the Israeli society, to be a part of the society. And they already declared that they are not going to build a government with him. And I think it's problematic because of few points. One of them is that they won't be able to build a government. And in the other one this is the talks of October 6th. Israel and the Israeli society has so many things on its table, so many challenges. And to put off 20% of the society, it's not a vision. It's not a way to
create a path forward to Israel.
It's not a way to find solutions for the problems of the Israeli society and of Israel, Israel anyway.
So what you're referring to, Nuridi, is saying that now that we have, things have gone back to the political situation we knew in October 6th. So we have this ultra-right government where I think one of the most important things are that half of the soldiers going into battle and reserve feel that they don't have representation. The most important thing, in my opinion, with this unity government, and Gantz paid a very big political price because the polls just came out today on our news. He's losing mandates every day. But he said he's going to do it because he thinks of Israel before politics. But one of the important things was that when soldiers went over to Gaza, or families or parents sent their kids over, they knew that in the government they had representation for their beliefs. Now, for the first time, we have a government that only represents.
But you know, it's not only beliefs, it's believing that the people sitting in the cabinet and sending them to die are people who are doing everything. The decisions are only for the Israeli interests and are right operational. that are operational decisions and not personal decisions.
Yeah, so I agree. This is going to be a big challenge. We have to see how it unfolds. But for the first time, Israel is really, I mean, big wars in Israel were always with the unity government. This is the first time we have a war, and we might face a big war also in the north, where half of the country have no representation, and as Nurit says, have no belief in the government and in the prime minister. Ro'i, this is what Sinwar is praying for. He is praying for this division. He is building on this division. He is sitting in his tunnel and saying, wow, all I have to do is wait. They're fighting within themselves. They're fighting with the US. They're fighting with the region. Take us to what you know about Sinwar, and how is he looking at all this and the things unfolding in the region? How long will he hold?
I think it's not only Sinwar, Dana. I think it's all the evil exile. I mean, Iran and Nasrallah. All of these leaders of this exile, the Iranian exile, they see what happened in Israel even before the 7th October. Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, speak about the division in Israel and the Israeli society every speech. And I think this is one of the reasons to this attack, because they think that now Israel is in the weakest point ever. So I think that's what we see. And also we have to say, Dana, that one of the main reasons for this attack was the thinking of Sinwar and Hamas, that they want to bring back to the front the Palestinian cause. I want to remember that you remember that before the 7th October, we spoke about what we spoke, Dana, about the normalization between Israel and Saudi Arabia. And Hamas also admit that one of the reasons of the attack was to sabotage this process, and unfortunately they succeed in this issue. I think that now, as we talk about Sinwar, he wants what important for Sinwar is to stay in the reign in Gaza. This is what's important for him. And they want also to stop the war. In this point, if they stop the war, I think the Iranian exile, for them it will be achievement. We have to admit it. But on the other end, as I mentioned before, the Arab countries think that maybe we can turn this crisis to an opportunity. What I mean that they want not only to figure out or find a solution for Gaza, they want more comprehensive solution to the region in exchange for the normalization between Saudi Arabia and Israel. And I think that now, you mentioned all the political issues, I'm not covering, but we see a great gap, a big gap between the leadership in Israel regarding this issue, because as Nurit said, no one speaks about the day after, and between the Arab countries who try to turn this crisis to an opportunity.
So this is where I want to take you.
And I know that Nadav will disagree with me.
So I think I would portray it this way. I would say Israel is at the most crucial crossroad it has ever met. On one side, it can continue the campaign in Gaza, then deal with the campaign in the north, then hopefully have power to deal with Iran, which will turn nuclear, and face this international tsunami that we have against Israel, or as the Biden administration is offering, and I think Nurit was referring to, and Ro'i was referring to, there's a willingness in the region, go for a ceasefire, even if it means halting this battle against Hamas, get the hostages, try and get a deal up north instead of going to a war to achieve the deal, build a coalition against Iran, and maybe have time to do the normalization. If you were at this crossroad, I can guess you were turned to the right.
Well, what's interesting is examining the expression continuation. And I will refer to it in a minute. I just want to say, because for you not to be misleaded, what we had today in the Knesset is actually a first stage in a judicial process that only gives an official stamp to the current situation that exists since the beginning of the State of Israel. And I am totally against this reality that we face since the 48, that the ultra-Orthodox Haredim are exempt from serving. And I think that we need to unite in order to change the current situation. It is not that we are now creating that situation. Maybe somebody could have been, maybe Nurit could have been misunderstood, but it's only, and what we actually need to do is, and by the way, what they voted today is the proposition of the party of Gantz and Eisenkot. That was their proposal a year ago.
It was an interim proposal. It was an interim proposal.
So just facts.
It was
but
the
let's
first
go
proposal
back.
for the
And our problem with the
for the
Haredim.
debate, we did have enough soldiers.
I tried. You
guys,
know, I was
okay,
so
let's
polite.
not
I was so polite. I held myself so much with the three of you. So please. Now.
I'm the moderator, just a second, but I really want to take you. I know you're going to talk.
Answer.
Because we're running out of time, please take it to the strategic level, okay, of where you see Israel.
Okay, that's exactly what I intend to do. And let's refer to, to continuation. Because you are talking about why won't we stop this continuation of the current situation as if we are fighting. So let's understand what's the reason for the October the 7th and the situation that we are facing in the current, and that I started with that. This fiasco of the North, which is the fiasco of the everywhere, this is exactly the mood that we are facing, at least in the past 30 years. Deluding ourselves, telling ourselves stories like we now hear, yes, well, Biden found the magical fountain of solving the problems. He will create this coalition. Well, we are hearing these stories for at least 30 years from the Oslo Accord. That's exactly what they were telling us. From the Oslo Accord. Yasser Arafat, our greatest enemy, is now a partner. He's a friend. You remember this? Where is, where's Yasser Arafat? We know. But what does his fellows and successors, what do they do? What do they teach the children? That there's no state of Israel. They teach their children who have launched the attack in Hague against us, that accuse us in genocide. The Palestinian Authority. These guys, these dear friends and partners, who is paying the Nukhba warriors, the Nukhba butchers that attacked us on October the 7th? The Palestinian Authority. According to their internal law. These are the guys that now Biden and my fellows, I'm sorry to say, wants us to be again, to repeat on the same path. I wanted to use other expressions, but I'll continue to be polite.
So Nadav,
now,
let me understand
now what happened later? What happened later is that. That's my time?
No, that's the whole panel. So please be generous.
Afterwards, we got another fairy tale, the disengagement. Do you know that we have disengaged from Gaza?
I'm not going back to the disengagement.
So
no. Nadav, we have to move forward. So
now we need to face reality. And reality, meaning doing everything that we did in the past 30 years differently. Meaning we should understand, finally, that the Palestinian national movement, including Hamas, Fatah, Palestinian Authority, and all the rest, wants to be instead of us, not alongside with us. As I heard from protesters on Saturday here, we know two states, we want 48.
So Nadav,
that's exactly the point. Now, let's come.
No, we have to leave time. So I want to ask you one short question. So when you hear the Prime Minister say, we respect the U.S., we respect their friendship, we respect the big check that they sign for our security, we respect that they give us ammunition, but if we need, we will fight with our fingers. Do you think that's the right way to put it?
That's exactly, by the way, I don't believe Netanyahu. And Netanyahu was part of the conception. And he did the same. He was talking right and doing left, by the way. But, and still, he's playing. However, I want to remind you, that's the same thing that Menachem Begin told Ronald Reagan in '82, when I was a young commander that I entered to Lebanon in order to confront the Katyusha, the rockets that were launched on Kiryat Shmone. That I was a year and a half in Lebanon. And Begin told Ronald Reagan, I respect you, but I have my country first, my interest of my country, and Begin succeeded. With all due respect.
Roy, I want to...
You want my time?
Sorry?
You want my time?
No. Roy,
no,
but I do want to ask you because...
Well, I am.
Okay, so we have Nadav with his, I think, which is a very, very clear way of looking at the region. I want to ask you, maybe the U.S. administration is not getting the Middle East right, in the sense that I want to take you to the speech on last Friday, where President Biden, shared with the world the Netanyahu proposal for this ceasefire. I mean, Biden told the ministers of the cabinet before they saw the paper. I heard from people in Israel saying, well, Biden doesn't get it because this is exactly what makes Sinwar entrench in his idea. Do you think that the American perspective is coherent with what you know about the region?
I think they have lack in knowledge of the region, because I think when we see it, regarding how the Arab countries saw this administration. What I mean, before 2 or 3 years, we saw Arab countries such as Saudi Arabia and United Emirates, getting again closer to Iran. It was a reaction for the elections in the United States after Biden was elected, because they thought that maybe Biden's administration doesn't know exactly what is going on in the Middle East. So I think there is a lack of knowledge, but I think they have good intentions. I don't think the Biden administration tried to do something that is bad for the region. But it still doesn't get, I think, how the Arab countries think, and so, and also Hamas, because you said that there is a lot of political issues in Israel. Also, really, we didn't mention it, but yeah. So I think it's part of the issue, and we have to remember, Dana, we spoke about the Saudi Arabia and Israel normalization. Everything here is interests, because there is a normalization that the United States want, and there is the defense pact between Saudi Arabia and the United States. That this is the main issue that's important for the Saudis, and also I think the Americans. But I think they use the normalization with Saudi Arabia to try to convince that we can create another region. And I think it's, right now it's, I don't know how much it's realistic in this past, but I want to be optimistic, as I said, because I disagree with that. I think that the cooperation between the Arab countries and Israel is very important, and I think that the Abraham Accords very important. And we have to remember, Nadav, that now in Arab countries there is a clearly Palestinian sentiment. We saw a lot of protests in the Arab countries. It's a big challenge from the leaderships of these countries, and I think that there is a need to balance this issue between the lack of knowledge of Biden's administration, not just Biden, also the other administrations, and the need that Israel will be integrated in the region. That's my thing.
That will save us.
I don't say
the Saudi Arabians.
No.
They will come to rescue us.
No.
Interesting.
No, that's what I said.
Can I take 5 minutes of your time to finish the panel? How are you doing? Yeah? Yeah? If anyone needs, okay, so I'm taking 5 minutes extra. I haven't asked the organizers. Do you want to say it's okay or just be Israeli and take the time? Go for it.
Yes, we have the dessert.
Okay, so Roy, you're touching on a very interesting point, which for me is the most important understanding from these past 8 months, because I think the most important event was the Iranian attack on Israel. I think that was a red line that was crossed. We still don't understand fully the strategic implementation of that night, but I told this to a group of people in the morning. I think the highlight of my career, I've been doing this for over 30 years, okay? I anchored the Saturday Night News show, which is the most used magazine in Israel, just to say. And I'm sitting in the studio, I don't know if you remember this, on April 13th. And I say this to the audience, okay? The attack is on the way. The drones, hundreds of them, are making their way from Tehran to Israel. The ballistic missiles are on the way. We'll break for a short commercial and we'll come back. And we did break for a commercial. This is Israel, okay? We are on a verge of an historic attack and we're breaking for commercials. But anyway.
Because of the false Iron Dome and so on.
I think the most important for me, and I think it touches on what you said, Roy, the most important thing was that Israel cannot and will not survive by itself in the region. And this is an age of coalitions and partnerships. And for 70 years, Israel was the problem. And now it's part of the solution in the region, and the Arab countries see it. So for me, this is an eye-opener. Nurit, I want to take a short. I want to see how you relate to the crossroad, to the junction. Where do you think Israel should go?
I want to say 3 short points. First, you said we are going to fight with our nails. So this is exactly what happened in October 7th. People were fighting with their nails, and it wasn't enough. So we can't fight with our nails. We need United States. We need the coalition, and we couldn't even go to Rafah. And the Rafah operation was delayed because we didn't have enough ammunition. Israel can't fight alone. And we're not an isolated star of snow sailing in the space. We're a part of a world, and we need to be a part of the solution, as you said, Dana. And I think it's very important. Also, you said, Nadav, about we have to fight, and we tried the disengagement and everything. I'm sorry, we had much more wars than tries to get a peace, than negotiations. And we have, if we want, no, not with Yahya Sinwar. Okay. If we want to justify our wars, we will have to sit and to talk about the day after. We will have to make coalitions. We will have to get the American administration as a partner. We can't survive without it. And I want to say, and to wrap my stuff in approaching to you guys. I know I'm waking up in the morning, every morning in Israel, and I'm a Jew. I don't have to do anything because I'm in Israel. I understand that when you wake up in the morning, you have to choose to be a Jew in the United States or in other places in the world. And you have to choose to stand up for Israel. And I know how hard it is to stand up with Israel, and especially in the last year. So thank you. We need it, and we need this coalition. So thank you very much.
I think, Nurit, we'll skip the optimistic photos and leave with your words. Nadav, we'll come back next year for you.
Well, you see, that's the Israeli politics. And that's the Israeli, that's the channel. No, 3 people against 1, and they are trying to understand the picture. Well, whoever wants to understand should listen to me later on. And I'll try to with my time.
But you know what, Nadav? I'll let you. We have 3 pictures. You can show your last picture. I wanted a round of pictures of optimism and hope, so you can show your last picture.
I would appreciate it.
If we could have it on the...
I think it's the most important thing that you'll gain from this discussion, if you can show it. So this is the funeral of a guy, of a soldier, the parachutist named Ilan Cohen, who he and his guys died in Gaza a month ago. Ilan Cohen was a soldier who came from Argentine. He, with immense effort, he succeeded in learning Hebrew and going to the parachutists, to Battalion 202. And he and other three fellows died in Gaza. And what you see here, you can't see it in the picture. This is his funeral. His mother and brother and grandfather were talking, and others. And there was a message in the
WhatsApp groups.
In the WhatsApp and so on, that he's a soul, and that might be not enough participant in the funeral. So actually, I was there with my wife. Of course, we didn't know him. Friends that we know, my son-in-law, that we revealed there in the audience. There were thousands of people who came. And most of us, me included, could not see the grave at all, because we were on other sides of Har Herzl, of Mount Herzl. And this is part of the unity that we do share, unlike what the impression that you can gain from this forum, that we do share. And we have, this gives us strength, and we revealed it since the October the 7th in every possible way. And what we need to fix is our leadership, and everything will be okay.
So Ro'i, Nurit, and Adav, thank you so much. I wanna leave you with two quotes of the former late Shimon Peres, our president, our statesman, and I think someone who is very much missed these days. First of all, he said that Israel is a country where the people bless the land, and not the land, the people, and I think that is very true. And the second thing, which is a motto for me always, but especially now in these challenging days, is that pessimists and optimists die the same but live differently. So it's better to live as an optimist. So again, thank you so much for having us, and thank you.
Greetings from Jerusalem to Congressman Ted Deutsch and to all of you at the American Jewish Committee's annual policy conference. I want to thank you for standing up for Israel, for standing up for the truth. Israel is fighting a just war with just means. We're fighting not only for ourselves, we're fighting for every democracy faced with terrorist savages who not only target civilians, but also hide behind civilians. These savage terrorists have perpetrated the worst violence against the Jewish people in one day since the Holocaust. They murdered babies, they burned people alive, they raped women and beheaded them, they took hostages. We have to make sure that Hamas is destroyed. Its military capabilities and governing capabilities are gone. We have to secure the release of our hostages, and we have to make sure that Gaza no longer poses a threat to Israel. This is as just a war as you can find in history. Yet Israel is maligned, Israel is vilified, even though most of the American people understand who is right and who is wrong. I know that for that purpose, you are standing up, you make your voice heard, you make our voice heard. And I want to thank you for that again. Yesterday we had a glorious day in Gaza. Israel's Special Anti-Terror Force penetrated the lairs of the terrorist monsters of Hamas, killed the terrorist, rescued 4 hostages. This was an operation of incredible ingenuity and courage, but also of great sacrifice. We lost Arnon Zmora, a brave commander who led his people right into the fire. I decided today in the cabinet meeting to call the rescue operation Operation Arnon in his honor. This is pretty much what Yitzhak Rabin did almost 50 years ago when he named the rescue operation in Entebbe after my brother, Jonathan, who commanded the rescue party that secured the release of 103 Jewish hostages. This is the tradition and the story of our people. Great courage, great sacrifice, and success. It's your story too. Keep doing this.
Please welcome AJC Executive Council member Melanie Nelkin.
עוד לא עבדה תקוותנו להיות חופשי בארצנו שמע ישראל.
As we continue our tribute to the heroes of Israel, we now turn our focus to a remarkable individual whose courage and resourcefulness saved countless lives amidst the horrors of October 7th. Nasreen Yusuf, a Druze Israeli and mother of 4, found herself at the forefront of a terrifying situation on the southern Gaza border. In the face of imminent danger, Nasreen's quick thinking and bravery not only prevented a bloodbath in her community, but also provided vital intelligence to the Israeli Defense Forces, averting further catastrophe. I had the privilege of meeting Nasreen several months ago during an AJC Leadership Solidarity mission to Israel. We were in shock as she emotionally recalled her experience to us, which unfolded like a suspense thriller movie. But it wasn't. It was real. And we all bared witness that day, and I will never forget Nasreen or her story. Nasreen's actions, which you'll learn more about in just a moment, exemplify the resilience and unwavering determination of the Israeli people, despite facing personal danger and what must have been unimaginable stress. Nasreen remained steadfast in her commitment to protect her family, her home, and her beloved community, where she's lived for 15 years. Her courage and heroics in the face of adversity serves as a beacon of hope and inspiration to all of us. She exemplifies what we know as an Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor. And today we honor Nasreen as a true hero of Israel, whose selfless actions embody the spirit of strength, compassion, and defiance against terror. Please direct your attention to the screens. Please join me in welcoming Nasreen Youssef.
שלום, קוראים לי נסרין יוסף, בת העדה הדרוזית, נשואה לאייד, משרת קבע בצה"ל, ואימא לשרון, בת 14, שנמצאת כאן היום איתי, סיוון בת 12, עומרי בן 10, ועמית ישראל בן 3. אנחנו גרים במושב יתד, פחות מ3 מייל מרצועת עזה. בבוקר שבת, 7 באוקטובר, התעוררנו להזעקות על ירי רקטות בלתי פוסק. ב6:30 בבוקר נשמעה אזעקת צבע אדום, צבע אדום, הראשונה. הערתי את בעלי, אייד, ששכב בסלון עם רגל שבורה, ואת הילדים, ורצנו כולנו לממ"ד. כשנכנסנו, נזכרתי שהשכנה שלי סובלת מחרדות. היא עברה לגור ביישוב לאחרונה, יחד עם 3 בנותיה הקטנות. הבאנו אותן אלינו, שיהיו איתנו בממ"ד שלנו. לאחר כמה זמן, הבת הגדולה שלי ביקשה לצאת לשירותים, והיא יצאה מהממ"ד. וכשהיא הסתכלה בחלון, היא חזרה ואמרה, יש מחבלים בחוץ. בהתחלה לא הבנתי, איך מחבלים? בעלי אמר לי לחזור לממ"ד, ושזה נכון. בעלי עמד ליד החלון, וניסה לתפוס קליטה. ניסה לתפוס קליטה סולרית, כי הייתה הפסקת חשמל, ולא הייתה לנו תקשורת, ורצינו לדעת מה קורה בחוץ. אחרי כמה רגעים, אייד בעלי עלה על מדים, הוא איש צבא, ומיד התקשר למפקד שלו ועדיין, והתקן אותו, יש לנו מחבלים בחוץ. הוא הגיב לי בעלי, אתה לא יצא החוצה, אני מכיר אותך, אתה משוגע. בעלי סיכם את השיחה באמירה, כבוד לי למות על מדים, במקום למות כמו העכבר בתוך הממ"ד. בעלי ואני התפצלנו, הוא יצא מהדלת האחורית ואני מדלת הכניסה. ואז אני פגשתי את המחבל הראשון, רצתי אליו, תפסתי אותו מהגרון ואמרתי לו בערבית, תסתכל לי בעיניים, אני לא מפחדת ממך. מאיפה נכנסת? מי שלח אותך? הוא הצביע וראה לי בדיוק, וסיפר לי שיש עוד מחבלים בחממה. חברי כיתת הכוננות של המושב תפסו עוד 4 מחבלים, ואני התחלתי לתשאל אותם. הבטחתי להם כסף, זהב, שעזור להם לברוח, העיקר לחלץ מידע. אחד מהם לא רצה לשתף פעולה, אבל הרוב כן. אפילו סיפר לי על עוד חוליה שנמצאת בתוך היישוב, וככה סייע לכוחות הביטחון שלנו. בשעות הערב ניהלתי שיחה דרך הטלפון של אחד המחבלים עם המפקד שלו, והצלחתי לגלות איפה הם נמצאים ומאיפה הם באים, והמידע הזה עזר מאוד ומנע אסון גדול יותר. הצבא הגיע בשבת בשעה 7 בערב, מעל 12 שעות אחרי תחילת האירוע. כשהם היו אצלי, הטלפון של אחד המחבלים התחיל לצלצל. הקצין שהיה לידי ביקש ממני לענות. על המסך הופיע את השם בערבית. זה לא היה שם פרטי, אלא כינוי אל האש. אש זה שם כן של ציפור. לא הצלחתי לפתוח את הטלפון. כששאלתי את המחבלים למי הוא שייך, התברר שהוא של המחבל שסירב לשתף איתי פעולה קודם יותר. ביקשתי ממנו שיפתח לי את הטלפון, והוא בטח. בצד השני היה קול של גבר שאומר, הלו, מוחמד, ויידיה. אמרתי, זה לא מוחמד ולא ויידיה, זאת נסרין. הזדהיתי בתור אישה ערבייה, גרה ליד הגדר, בצד הישראלי, וסיפרתי שיש לי דירת מסתור, ושכל החברים שלו אצלי, ואני שומרת עליהם. הוא שאל אותי שוב ושוב מי אני. בכל פעם שאמרתי לו אותם דברים, אני נסרין, אני ערבייה. שאלתי אותו איפה הם נמצאים, הוא נתן לי את המיקום שלו. הוא ביקש לדבר עם אחד המחבלים. שאלתי אותו עם מי מהם. הוא ביקש את מוחמד וויידיה. מוחמד היה פצוע. המחבל שלו שיתף איתי פעולה. העמידו אותו לידי, הבטחתי לו שאציל אותו, והוא השתכנע. הוא אמר למפקד שלו, היא ערבייה, היא משלנו. מסתירה אותנו מהצבא הישראלי. שאלתי אותו כמה הם. הוא אמר לי מאות בדרך לכאן. המשפט ששבר אותי, אינשאללה הלילה נכבוש את ישראל. המחבל הבטיח שהוא יפצה אותי, בגלל שאני עוזרת לו ולחברים שלו. אמרתי לו שאין צורך, והשיחה נגמרה. כשהמשכתי לתשאל את המחבלים שאלות, אחד מהם הראה לי קבלות שנתנו לו חמאס עבור כל יהודי שהוא ירצח, בין 5 ל-25 דולר לכל יהודי. הזדעזעתי לראות שיש ערך כספי לחיי אדם, לא משנה מי האדם. אחרי כחצי שעה קיבלתי הודעה על 2 חברים שלי שנרצחו. היה לי מאוד קשה לקבל את זה. כל הלילה לא ישנתי. ביום ראשון ב-5 בבוקר קיבלתי הודעה שחבר קרוב לי, כמו אח, נרצח. זה היה נורא. כוחות הצבא הנוספים הגיעו ביום ראשון, 5 בבוקר, ויתרו מחבלים שהסתתרו בתוך הברדס לידינו. ביום שני בבוקר באו מהשב"כ ולקחו את כל המחבלים. היינו מותשים ולא ידענו מה גודל האסון. ראינו גופות מחבלים, חיילים ואזרחים על הכביש. ראיתי שכנה באוטו, ירויה בראש. התחלתי לקרוא שמע ישראל, שמע ישראל, ולבכות עד שאיבדתי את הקול שלי. לא הייתי מסוגלת לדבר. חודשיים הייתי בלי קול. רק אחרי יומיים ראיתי את רשימת הנרצחים. 7 באוקטובר הוא תאריך שאי אפשר לשכוח. איבדתי מעל ל50 חברים, אנשים יקרים לליבי. איבדתי חברים של הילדים שלי, ילדים שגדלו אצלי בבית. מאז החיים שלי השתנו. אנחנו מתמודדים עם מציאות מאוד מאוד קשה, והמלחמה עדיין נמשכת. אני רוצה ואני מקווה שיהיה לנו שקט במדינה, וששאר העולם ימשיך לתמוך במדינה שלי, מדינת ישראל. לתמוך כדי שנוכל להגן על עצמנו ולתת לנו את הכוח להמשיך. מה שהיה ב7 באוקטובר היה שואה לכל דבר. בשנת 2023 חמאס נכנס לבתים שלנו. רצח, אנס, ערף ראשים ולא רחם על אף אחד. אסור שזה יקרה שוב. אני נסרין, אישה דרוזית, ישראלית, אמא. אני רוצה לגדל את הילדים שלי במדינה שלי, שהם יהיו בטוחים בה ויוכלו לשגשג בה ולהגשים את עצמם. לבן הקטן שלי, עמית ישראל, קראתי על שם גיבור ישראל עמית בן יגאל, זכרו לברכה, חייל גולני שנפל בלחימה בשנת 2020. אנחנו חלק מאותו העם, וכולנו רוצים לחיות יחד במדינת ישראל, כי זה הבית שלנו. עם ישראל חי, עם ישראל חי.